All right, one of my favorite winter activities is this.
Alright, we still need a fish. Oh, we got fish. Alright. Moving on. That's what I like to see. We have fishes. We have walleyes, perch, crappie, bullheads, and suckers on display up there.
Well, we're gonna put the box down, the water zone. We set it up to be a fun kind of thing.
And what you can do is just use them to stick in the ice. You can actually pull yourself up out. Pick yourself up the hole, try to find, or the edge. Try to kick your way out. Just like the other thing, just roll away from the hole.
We are going to give away over $8,000 cash and merchandise, courtesy of many local vendors. So it's a 15-minute derby.
All right, so ice fishing may not be for everyone. I enjoy doing it. However, this particular ice fishing derby is the Crappie Derby held in Whitney Point, New York. And it's called the almost annual Crappie Derby because some years there wouldn't be enough ice. Now this event started in 1973, and before, just once in a blue moon, there might not be enough ice. However, they've only had it once in the past 10 years. All right? And the reason being is there hasn't been enough ice in the lake to hold it. This would draw like 5,000 people. I've gone to it before. Because there's not enough ice anymore, because over the past like 10, 15 years, things are substantially warmer than they were 30 years ago, all right? And the reason for that is climate change, which is what we're looking at today. So, we're doing the last page of the goldenrod notes here. All right, so climate change, long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. So, periodically there'd be, a few days in the wintertime, there might be a few days here that are warmer. Get a little warm spell here and there. But what we're finding is those warm spells are lasting longer, they're getting warmer, and they're becoming more frequent. And for something like a lake, I mean, for our day-to-day, we might not notice it so much day-to-day, but for something like a lake that stores heat, and the result of that is the thinning ice or lack of ice, it becomes much more evident. And if you look at the data from that Crappie Derby, they have data from previous years. You can see that not only had the amount of times they had the Crappie Derby became less and less, but the ice had getting thinner and thinner as time went by. So the primary causes for the climate change has to do with greenhouse gases, primarily methane and carbon dioxide. Right? There's a variety of reasons for that. One, primarily is burning fossil fuels. When you burn coal, oil, natural gas, gasoline, things like that, that produces carbon dioxide. And the past 100 years or so, there's been more and more cars, so more and more carbon dioxide has been added to the atmosphere. So the amount of carbon in the atmosphere has been going up and up and up. That's why there's a push to move towards electric cars, so you don't add as much, doesn't add as much to that. But also with electricity, you gotta get the electricity from someplace, and a lot of power plants that you get electricity from are the result of burning coal. And now in the United States, we're getting better with that. A lot of electricity is gotten from solar farms and windmills and stuff like that. Nuclear power doesn't produce carbon dioxide either. So we're getting better with that, at least on the electricity side of it. But there's a lot of countries that are developing where it's still the cheapest and easiest way to get electricity is from burning coal. So like in China, they're still building coal burning power plants like crazy. Another thing that causes carbon dioxide to increase is deforestation, right? Now, plants carry on photosynthesis. They take carbon dioxide out of the air. Now, what happens is places like the Amazon rainforest, where there's a tremendous amount of plants there, they're cutting forests down there. And the reason why they're cutting it, well, for wood, for some degrees for wood, but mostly it's for farmland. Because you can make a lot of money, like if I chop down an acre of forest and start planting like soybeans there, I can make money every year off the soybeans, where I wouldn't be making money every year off the rainforest. So farmers and stuff are starting to do that, or not starting to do that, they've been doing that in some places like the Amazon. And an acre of rainforest takes a lot more carbon dioxide out of the air than an acre of soybeans, for example. So deforestation leads to increase in carbon dioxide levels because there's not many plants taking carbon dioxide out of the air. Making concrete, right? The rock material that's used in making concrete has a lot of carbon dioxide stored in it. When you make concrete, that releases a lot of that carbon dioxide to the air. So a lot of places, like China, where they're building lots and lots of things, lots of buildings and bridges and things like that, they use lots of concrete, that's adding a lot of carbon dioxide. Now, not everything on here is the result of human activities. Volcanic activity, when volcanoes erupt, that can spew a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Methane, right? Now, there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than there is methane. Both of them are greenhouse gases. Methane is actually a much stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So a little bit of methane can do the same damage as a whole bunch of carbon dioxide. And one of the places that methane is getting added to the atmosphere is from melting permafrost. So in places like Siberia and northern Canada, the ground's frozen, and there's decaying vegetation from 50,000 years ago or so, and because decaying vegetation produces methane, but that decaying vegetation was trapped in the frozen ground. But as that ground thaws, you have the methane gas from that decaying vegetation getting released to the atmosphere, which can make the atmosphere warmer, which could melt more permafrost. Right. So that adds methane. Livestock. Some animals, basically animals burping and farting, they release a lot of methane to the atmosphere. Some animals more so than others. Cows are particularly ones that release a lot of methane into the atmosphere. Pigs less so than cows, chickens less so than pigs and cows. But there's some countries that now institute a gas tax on cattle to kind of limit the amount of gas that cattle produce. There's some things you can do with cattle, like as far as changing their diet, that can reduce the amount of gas they release, and some other things you can work on that too. Not listed here, but termites also produce lots of methane. Warmer oceans can add more carbon dioxide. Now just imagine like 2 bottles of soda, all right? The reason why the soda has bubbles in it is because they put carbon dioxide in the soda. Now, if I have a bottle of soda that's in the refrigerator, maybe like 35 degrees Fahrenheit, and a bottle sitting on the counter at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, if I turn the cap on both of them, I'll see more bubbles coming out of the one at room temperature than the colder one. Because when you warm a liquid up, any of the carbon dioxide that's dissolved in the liquid will come out of the liquid, the warmer it is. So there's a lot of carbon dioxide dissolved in the ocean. So as the oceans warm up, more of the carbon dioxide comes out of the ocean and into the atmosphere, which could warm things up even more. All right. So those are some of the primary causes for increases in methane and carbon dioxide. All right. So most of those are things that are a result of human activities. Now, sometimes people say like, there's other things. They acknowledge that the Earth is warming up, but they say it's caused by other things like by orbits and things like that. All right. So they're looking for some sort of external causes for global warming. Now there are things like variations in orbit, like the Earth wobbles a little bit. That makes it so where Earth is tilted towards the Earth a little bit more than other times. And the solar activity can fluctuate. But like the wobble of the Earth, it takes 26,000 years to make one wobble. That can have an effect on climate, but that's things that takes place over many thousands of years, not the warming that we've seen in the last few decades. All right? So this is something, but it's not really what's causing the warming that we've seen recently. So what are some of the effects of this? Now, we like to call it climate change, not global warming, because actually the effects in the climate in some areas could actually result in cooler temperatures. And the reason for that is what's happening is the jet stream, which kind of separates the colder air from the warmer air. When it's going really fast, it kind of goes in a straight line. But as it weakens, it meanders more and can cause these dips into where the cold air goes down or where the warm air goes up. And in some instances, there might be a dip where a certain area gets really cold weather for that one localized area where the other parts of the world are substantially warmer. So I think it was in 2015, I believe. It was really cold in New York State. We had a really cold winter. But like the rest of the world was having a really warm winter, but it was just because of this dip in the jet stream that caused that. So sometimes the dip in the jet streams can cause some places to be colder when the rest of the places are getting warmer. Right. Now, as the air warms, what does that do? Well, warm air can hold more moisture than cold air can. And if you live in a dry area, dry areas are going to become even drier. And the reason being is if the air can hold more moisture, you're going to have more evaporation taking place. So an area that only got a little bit of water to begin with, if the air can cause that water to evaporate faster, it's going to have even less water to your surface. Okay? Whereas if you live in a wet area, places where there's lots of moisture, New York State being one of them, where we are, what's likely going to happen is since the air can hold more moisture, there's going to be more moisture in the air. So we're going to get storms that produce a lot more rainfall than they had in the past. So places that are wet areas are going to even get wetter. So what you're going to see is more extremes in weather. So drier areas, some wetter areas, other places. All right? Other things that can happen, sea level rising. Right? As temperatures increase, it can melt the glaciers. All right? So glaciers are the ice that are on continents like the ice on Greenland or the ice in Antarctica. Now the glaciers in Antarctica, some of them are like several miles thick, so that's a lot of water there. As the earth warms and that melts, that water is added to the ocean, makes the level of the oceans go up. But that's not the only thing. Also, as the warmer the oceans get, when you heat things up, they expand. So just changing the temperature of the ocean actually, and making it warmer actually makes the level of the water go up too, because warmer things expand. Right? Another thing, stronger storms. Right? What fuels a hurricane is warm water. As the water gets warmer, what you're going to find is the hurricanes that form are going to be stronger, because like a hurricane that forms over 85-degree water is a lot stronger than a hurricane that forms over 80-degree water. Okay? So you're going to have stronger hurricanes, meaning more rain and stronger winds. You're also going to have more of them because smaller storms that maybe wouldn't be a hurricane because it's over warmer water will evolve into a hurricane, become stronger than what it originally would have been. So you're going to have stronger storms with stronger winds and more rainfall. All right, so some of the things that can happen. Well, in coastal areas, you get more flooding. There's a lot of places on Earth where people live that are only a few feet above sea level. A good portion of the state of Florida is only a few feet above sea level. Cities like New Orleans, a lot of New Orleans is under sea level. They have like dikes and levees and stuff holding the water back. Or other places like Venice, Italy, or Amsterdam, they're only a few feet above sea level. If the ocean goes up a few feet, those cities are in danger. There's also some like small island nations in the Pacific Ocean where the whole country's only a few feet above sea level. And they're already looking ahead at, places where the whole country can move, because if things keep going the way they are, that country's not going to exist anymore. It's going to be flooded. Okay. Food shortages. All right. So there's some places in the world that they can grow crops now, but it takes a lot of work to do it because there's not that much water there. They might have to irrigate from someplace else. But if the area becomes even drier, that water that they were using to irrigate the crops might not exist anymore, and they might not be able to grow anything there. So there's a good chance where if you live in like kind of borderline areas, that if it gets any drier, you're not going to be able to grow anything. All right. Loss of species. All right. A lot of animals can't survive the warmer temperatures, like corals. All right. Corals in the ocean, they're kind of stuck in one spot. They're an animal, but they really can't move. The warmer temperatures has a tendency to kill them off. They call it bleaching because they turn white when they die. But there's a lot of corals, like around Australia and stuff, that are dying off because of the warmer temperatures. What you also have is some animals are moving. All right. If it lived in an area, now the area is becoming warming and starting to warm up, what the animals do is they move farther north to get to cooler temperatures. So you hear a whole species migrating to new areas. Or same thing, they might start going up a mountain. You might have creatures that live towards the bottom of the mountain, but as the environment gets warmer, what they do is they start moving up farther up the mountain to get to cooler and cooler temperatures. Health risks. All right. Nowadays, around in upstate New York, you probably wouldn't want to walk in a grassy field with shorts on. And the reason what you're worried about is ticks. All right, because ticks can spread disease like Lyme disease and so forth. You go back like 30 years ago when I was a kid, that really wasn't a thing. People didn't worry about ticks back then. The reason why ticks are such a bigger problem nowadays is because of the warmer temperatures. Ticks have kind of migrated in this area, and then they bring the disease with it. All right. So there's a whole bunch of results, some people may think, oh, it's just a little bit warmer, it's not going to be, what's the big deal with that? But, it could cause all sorts of problems between stronger storms and health effects and floodings that, if these things took place over, a really, really, really long time, the environment and people could adjust. But these are taking place over the course of just a few decades, and it's hard to adjust for things like that. And like in the past, there's been climate change in the past, but again, normally it's over the course of, thousands of years where it's taken place, where now it's taking place very fast.